First, it was Ben Roethlisberger. Then it was Tom Brady. Two Hall of Fame quarterbacks calling it a career and marking the end of an era. The same could be said for Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay. Will he stay or will he go?
A lot of decisions to be made. I don't want to be a part of a rebuild.
If Rodgers decides to leave Green Bay for perhaps greener pastures, number 12 will have plenty of teams calling for him to be their QB1. Rodgers isn't the only commodity that could be on the market. After an offseason full of turmoil, followed up by his first losing season in Seattle, it's quite possible that Russell Wilson might make even more noise about getting out of the Emerald City.
It's going to be abundantly clear to the Seahawks that he would like the opportunity to play elsewhere, and obviously he has a no-trade clause.
Elsewhere in the NFC West, Jimmy Garoppolo has already said farewell to the 49ers faithful.
I'm excited about the opportunities to come. I just want to go to a place where they want to win. It's been a hell of a ride. I love you guys. See ya.
Then there's the saga of Deshaun Watson in Houston. With his legal status still in limbo, the question still remains, does he finally get moved? Especially considering that the demand for franchise quarterbacks has increased. Decisions are also looming in both Vegas and Minnesota. Derek Carr and Kirk Cousins are both entering the final year of their current contracts. Who will stay and who will go? The quarterback carousel is about to begin.
Thank you very much, Hakeem Dermish. For more on what could happen with the quarterback, let's now welcome in Ryan Wilson and Tyler Sullivan. We're playing draft, sign, or trade. Gentlemen, Ryan Wilson going to be the guy to draft. Tyler Sullivan, you're going to be our sign or trade guy. Before we get into it, let's take a look at the top free agents versus the rankings as we head into the offseason with the quarterbacks. And you see Jameis Winston, Teddy Bridgewater, Ryan Fitzpatrick, Tyrod Taylor, and Cam Newton, your notable quarterback free agents in terms of the draft rankings. Matt Corral, Malik Willis, Kenny Pickett, Sam Howell, Desmond Ridder. So, let's start with the Pittsburgh Steelers, who saw the Ben Roethlisberger era come to a close. They have questions at quarterback: Mason Rudolph, Dwayne Haskins, Josh Dobbs. Those are the guys on the depth chart today. Ryan, who are you drafting?
Well, look, Mike Tomlin has made no bones about it. He is looking for a mobile quarterback. Big Ben was that early in his career. Later in his career, he moved more like I do. So there's a reason they want to move on from that. The offensive line wasn't very good. So they need a guy who can move in the pocket. And we've seen the last 7, 8, 9 years how incredibly important these mobile quarterbacks can be, which brings us to Liberty's Malik Willis. The Steelers picked 20th overall. They have huge needs along the offensive line, so they may decide to go there. But if Malik Willis is there, they're going to think long and hard about it. He's only 6 foot tall, but he's about 220 plus, and he reminds me a lot physically of Russ Wilson coming out of Wisconsin. You can see him running here. He ran all over the Senior Bowl on the Saturday game. He has a rocket arm. Decision making is going to be an issue, and that's why you need him to go to an organization that has some stability, where he's not asked to start right away and bear the brunt of that franchise. And I think Malik Willis would be in a good landing spot in Pittsburgh. Hopefully Sully has some even better news in terms of free agency, though, because I'm a huge Steelers homer.
Yeah, Ryan, I think you're going to like this one. And again, a lot of people are pointing to Aaron Rodgers and possibly being traded to the Denver Broncos. That's kind of the notable connection that those two have been having. I don't know why the Pittsburgh Steelers aren't in that conversation of trying to trade for Aaron Rodgers, the defending league MVP. You already have a Super Bowl caliber defense, the top defensive player in the NFL in TJ Watt. I don't understand why you're trying to draft and develop when you already have the makings of a Super Bowl team already in place. You put Aaron Rodgers on this team, you are contending with the Kansas City Chiefs. You're right there with the Buffalo Bills, and you are the best team in the AFC North, which consists of the AFC champion Cincinnati Bengals and Joe Burrow. To me, if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers, you look at the past Super Bowl champions in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Los Angeles Rams. Both had top-tier defenses. They went out and traded for an elite quarterback and found themselves in the winner's circle, hoisting a Lombardi trophy. The Steelers, they have that reputation of maybe being a little bit more conservative, but go all in. Let's see if you can get this MVP caliber quarterback in Aaron Rodgers and go win a Super Bowl.
Tyler, I'm with you, man. I totally agree. I totally agree with that. I've been thinking that. Why are the Steelers not in for Aaron Rodgers? So I love it. I love that pick. All right, Tom Brady, let's talk about him. Also calling it a career. For now, for now. That leaves Blaine Gabbert, Kyle Trask on their roster. Tyler, I'm going to start with you here. Who are you going to sign or trade?
Well, you know I have these New England roots in me, so obviously I'm going to go after them trading for Jimmy Garoppolo. You know, I got the banners behind me. I want to see it happen. I wanted to see it happen in New England. That didn't happen, but I want to see it happen in Tampa Bay. Jimmy Garoppolo succeeding Tom Brady. I think it would be a fascinating storyline, and it makes a lot of sense for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They already, very similar to the Steelers, have a playoff caliber roster already put together. They have some free agents they have to figure out, but Garoppolo makes a lot of sense. He does a lot of the same things Tom Brady can do. He has that innate ability to win, has made it to a Super Bowl with the San Francisco 49ers. To me, that one makes a lot of sense. I don't know if they will be able to really swing things with Aaron Rodgers or Deshaun Watson or Russell Wilson. This is kind of that good middle ground of getting themselves a stable quarterback while Trask continues to develop. And Jimmy Garoppolo, to me, again, is a guy that can still win you football games and keep you competitive in the NFC while still maybe not going all in and throwing away all your draft capital to get one of those elite guys.
Shout out to Sully for not sending Jimmy G to the Steelers. So that's a huge win for me. I'm not a big Garoppolo guy, but I'll say this. That team would be incredibly handsome in back-to-back years at the quarterback position. You go from Tom Brady, even sprinkle a little Blaine Gabbert in there and go to Jimmy G. I get that. I think Sully's exactly right. You can win in that division with the Jimmy G because there's not much else in terms of competition. But if they're going to draft a guy, and again, as Sully noted, they just drafted Kyle Trask last year on day 2. You can go in round 1 with a guy like Sam Howell, who is a gunslinger that fits the Bruce Arians mold. Didn't have a great season in 2021, in part because he was asked to do so much on that Tar Heels football team. They lost 2 running backs and 2 wide receivers to the draft. Those running backs and wide receivers were pretty productive as rookies. But Sam Howell has a rocket arm. He's incredibly mobile, not quite as mobile as Malik Willis, but he put up similar type numbers during the practice week at Senior Bowl and got some folks' attention. He's a gamer, he's a gunslinger, all these other adjectives we like to throw around to describe these guys, but he's incredibly tough, and I feel like he can come in to that Bruce Arians system and throw the ball down the field, which we know BA likes to do. He's a young quarterback. He's not going to provide any pushback as perhaps maybe Tom Brady and Byron Leftwich did at points during their time there, according to these reports that we're now hearing. We'll see, but I think Sam Howell makes some sense at the bottom of the first round. He's not a flavor for everyone in terms of guys you might like, but he fits a certain mold, and that mold certainly feels like one that Bruce Arians could really enjoy getting his hands on and working with.
If BA stays there, of course, that's the other question. We're still waiting to figure out what's going to happen with all these Tampa Bay Buccaneers now that Brady has called it a career. Okay, the Washington Commanders, I'm just going to say they failed at the quarterback position this past season. I mean, Ryan Fitzpatrick, Taylor Heineke, Kyle Allen, Garrett Gilbert. I mean, those are the guys that are all on the depth chart today. Ryan, if you're the Commanders, I mean, you've got a new name, so let's make a new start at the quarterback position.
Jeremy, I thought you were going to say they failed at the naming rights because I want to call them the Commandos. I want to call them the Commodores. I can never get it right. So
don't call them commies, Ryan.
I'm going to just keep calling them. I don't know if you call it. I'll just call them Washington because I don't want to get tripped up on that. But I won't be quite so harsh on the quarterback situation. I thought Taylor Heineke did a pretty good job being rushed into duty, and he held his own. But the reality is he's a backup. He is not a guy you want to build your franchise around, and there's no crime in that. The NFL needs backups, and he's a good one. So if you're sitting there around the top 10, you can take someone like Matt Corral, who should still be on the board. Again, like Malik Willis, he's incredibly athletic. He's undersized. He's probably about 6'1". We'll find out for sure in a week and a half of the Combine. He has a great arm, and he got a lot better from 2020 to 2021. We talked on the Pick Six podcast, and he talked about how he's just more patient. He understood coverages more, what teams are trying to do against him, and he can take that to the NFL, reduces interceptions by about 12, I believe. And again, he's incredibly mobile. So that fits what today's quarterback does, and I think he can come into a system in Washington where they have pieces around him so he doesn't have to do it all, including a really good defense, which helps any young quarterback.
Yeah, the Commanders, to me, it's going to be a while. For somebody who still calls the Rays the Devil Rays, it's going to take me a minute to really figure that name out. And I'm with Ryan. I think that the draft is probably the best route for them as they continue to kind of rebuild. But like you said, it's been really tough at the quarterback position over the last few years here. Ron Rivera going into a critical third year. They need to find somebody. And one that I think makes a lot of sense is going out and signing Jameis Winston. He would have the highest ceiling of any quarterback that they have brought in over the course of Rivera's tenure. I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing. But ultimately, he showed some promise before he tore his ACL with the New Orleans Saints, who they could obviously re-sign. He only threw 3 picks. They were 7-2 before he went down with an injury. He is somebody who could come in, give a heightened level of talent at the quarterback position that they haven't seen in many, many years. He'd be the best quarterback that Terry McLaurin's played with, Antonio Gibson's played with, and they could contend in the NFC East. They would be much better than the New York Giants. They'd be much, or at least right there with the Philadelphia Eagles, and probably right behind the likes of the Dallas Cowboys. You could make a playoff run with Jameis Winston at quarterback if you're the Washington Commanders. To me, that would make a lot of sense for them.
Okay. Speaking of Jameis Winston, he is set to hit free agency as the Saints start that post-Sean Payton era. Tyler, who do you have leading the band as the Saints go marching towards another Lombardi?
You know, this is a very similar argument that I just made with the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Saints have all the makings of a Super Bowl roster. Good defense, skill position players are at an elite level. Michael Thomas expected to come back. Alvin Kamara, one of the better running backs in the NFL, a sturdy offensive line if they can get some of those guys re-signed. Why aren't you going all out and going after a guy like Russell Wilson? He's another one who you could immediately add to your roster, and you would be considered one of the better teams in the NFC. Like we were talking about with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, that NFC South is completely wide open. There's, again, no Sean Payton. There's no Drew Brees. You throw Russell Wilson in there when Tom Brady's gone. We don't know what's really going to happen with the Atlanta Falcons and Matt Ryan as he gets older. The Carolina Panthers seem to be an absolute mess if they don't get the quarterback situation figured out. You put Russell Wilson on the Saints, you are the favorite to come out of the NFC South and probably one of the favorites in the NFC overall.
Yeah, this is going to be a tough follow from Russell Wilson. So if you're the Saints and you're looking to the draft, I'm going to say Carson Strong. I mean, I feel like an idiot. But here's the thing. Carson Strong was one of my favorite quarterbacks coming into the season. He suffered a knee injury or had it worked on, had a procedure prior to the season. The knee injury goes back to high school. Mobility is not his thing, and that's just the reality of it. He went to the Senior Bowl, and he was okay. He wasn't great. Didn't put to rest any concerns about that mobility, and some of his decision-making sort of showed itself. But I thought he had a really good career at Nevada. You don't take him in round 1. You may not even have to take him in round 2. You can wait till pick 100, a compensatory pick for the Saints. He might still be available in much the same way that Davis Mills was a third-round guy, and he could come in. Offense is already there. The defense is even better. Yes, Sean Payton is gone, but the structure is in place, and he could have success early on. He's an incredibly smart quarterback, plays on a fast surface, gets the ball out quickly, and has some success. That said, if you're asking me Russ Wilson for 20 first-round picks versus Carson Strong at pick 100, I mean, I'm giving up the 20 first-round picks for Russ Wilson.
All right, there were a lot of teams that struggled at the quarterback position. We talked about the Commanders. If they get an F, then you'd have to say the Carolina Panthers get what, an L? I mean, they started with Sam Darnold. They ended up paying Cam Newton a ton of money for not a lot of return. Ryan, if you're drafting for Carolina, who are you looking at?
Here's the thing about the Carolina Panthers that makes that deal so terrible. You might say, hey, use your second-round pick and package it with that number 6 overall pick and perhaps trade for. You don't have a second-round pick because you traded it for Sam Darnold. So you're sitting there at number 6. What should you do? I would take an offensive lineman because that offensive line was putrid, just put it kindly. But in the last mock draft, I had him taking Kenny Pickett, so I'll stick with that here. Why Kenny Pickett? Well, he's one of the best quarterbacks in this draft class. No one really disputes that. He had a really good 2021 season. But here's the main reason. Our guy Jason Lockhart wrote last week that the Panthers love Kenny Pickett. There's a relationship going back to when he was recruited at Temple when Matt Rule was there. Matt Rule obviously is now the Panthers head coach, and he needs to win football games. And I think Kenny Pickett has a chance to be a good quarterback. He would be much better going to a team that has some structure, like, say, the Steelers or the Saints. The Panthers might be a worst-case scenario for him. And I'll just say it again, Jeremy, I'm going to say it for the next 6 weeks or so. He reminds me of Daniel Jones coming out, and that's no slight for Daniel Jones or Kenny Pickett, but they need help around them. Daniel Jones didn't get it in New York, and Kenny Pickett's not going to get in Carolina, but it could end up being a reality once the draft rolls around.
You know, with the Carolina Panthers, they have a lot of issues. And what do you do with a team that has a lot of issues that need masking? You add an elite quarterback. That basically is the paintbrush that cures all for these teams. And for me, it's going after Deshaun Watson. As long as he gets his off-the-field situation cleared up and is able to go strictly looking on the field, he's one of the best young quarterbacks talent-wise in the NFL. He's right up there with Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, whoever you want to name. He's in that category in terms of talent-wise. And this is a team in the Carolina Panthers that have been rumored to be interested in him before all of this stuff off the field started to come down. David Tepper, a very aggressive owner, wants to win right now. This would be one of those blockbuster, go to the bank type of moves that could put that team in the driver's seat in the NFC South. Again, like I was just saying with the Buccaneers and the Saints, pretty wide open. It seems like whoever gets that elite quarterback is going to be in the driver's seat to win that division. So if you're the Carolina Panthers, who have struggled to really contend basically since you've been in the Super Bowl with Cam Newton in Super Bowl 50, you should go all in to try to figure that out here with Deshaun Watson. Again, if all of those off the field issues are cleared up.
Yeah, you're going to need to, a team with issues doesn't need more issues. So you're going to have to make sure that Deshaun Watson's free and clear before you decide to pony up for that. All right, thank you very much, gentlemen. Ryan, stick around. Tyler, thanks for popping on with us, and enjoy your weekend. And for more off-season analysis, be sure to check out the Pick Six podcast. Ryan's part of that with Will Brinson and John Breach, trio examining every big storyline as we head into another packed few months ahead of the draft. Combine's coming up. We're talking about that. Download and follow the Pick Six podcast wherever you get your podcast audio.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.